I have been misrepresented, misquoted, and misstated, and I, in the interest of hearing everybody's questions, haven't asked to go back and do corrections. Well, I'm very proud of my vote to move healthcare forward in America. Bankruptcy for middle-class families. The largest reason why most middle-class families found themselves filing for bankruptcy was healthcare. People who found themselves in the middle of cancer treatment with a cap on how much money was going to be spent on their chemotherapy. That's gone under this bill. Social Security was the greatest safety net that was put in place to protect seniors, especially senior women. And I want people just to think for a second back 2 years ago of what would have happened to people who had their Social Security invested in the stock market. It wouldn't be a pretty picture. It's tough times out there for all of us right now. And I know businesses are hurting, and I know families are hurting, and I know we're on the road to recovery. Well, we were in an economic 9/11. And we were told by economists that we needed to do something to jumpstart and to rescue the economy from further failure. There were many ideas that were out there. We heard from conservative economics. We heard from people who were very liberal on it. And so we came together to put a rescue package for this economy to the very best we could. We worked very hard to make some financial reforms put in place, which the President has signed into law to keep slipping into another spiral, which we saw with the deregulation of many of the mortgage instruments that were sold, hedge funds, credit to swap vaults, you name it. There were all kinds of bad products out there on the market that weren't being regulated that contributed significantly to the economic crisis our country found ourselves in 2 years ago. We still have more work to do, and addressing some of the issues with Fannie and Freddie are absolutely part of that. The House has been working on it in a bipartisan way. Congressman Frank is ready to start moving a bill to the House to have some discussion on it, but the Senate has unfortunately told us that they will not take up that legislation this year. That is a priority for me to go back and work on next Congress if I'm reelected.
Well, hello, and welcome to this edition of Where is Washington Taking Our Country Back? I'm Steve Carlson, the producer of this show, and right now I'm running as the Independence Party candidate for the 4th Congressional District of Minnesota for the U.S. House of Representatives. And we're in the middle of a campaign that is currently heating up, as the St. Paul Pioneer Press just reported from our debate, which you will see here from the White Bear Lake Chamber of Commerce that just happened on Tuesday, September 21st. Now, on September 19th, I had a debate on KSTP TV, which will be airing throughout the month of October of 2010 here. And that's between myself and Teresa Collett. Betty McCollum declined to appear at that debate. And so today I would like to get into some of the very critical issues. I believe that you'll see that this is one of the best debates that I think is occurring anywhere in the country. And the reason for that is that we don't just have the typical Republican versus Democrat competing here. Now, the St. Paul Pioneer Press reported that they thought that I just basically agreed with everything that the Republican Teresa Collett said in the debate with Betty McCollum, but that is clearly not so, as you will see from this debate. Now, in particular, the first topic which I want to start out with here, and I'm going to show you some footage from that debate, simply in which I set out the question of the key issue in this election this year, and that is, how do we create private sector jobs? We don't want to just spend more money to lock in government jobs that are either very temporary or else kind of have a perpetual motion of their own and just build up the bureaucracy in the federal level that's tearing our country down right now. So how do we protect ourselves from this tremendous federal growth And now we come back to the local level, work with the kinds of small and large businesses that are members of the White Bear Lake Chamber of Commerce, who was dialoguing with us this week. And we try to create some jobs from the ground up. Now, one of the ideas that I set out in this debate, which you'll see mentioned, but which I really didn't get a chance to flesh out very much, is what I call just-in-time hiring. Okay, well, I came here to talk about private sector job creation. I think this is the issue in the 2000 elections generally. And yet I'm hearing from all the candidates that they cannot create private sector jobs. I have a different view. And I also want to clarify my views that were, I think, distorted in this debate that is going to air on KSTP. I recognize the role of monetary policy and fiscal policy to create a better environment for small businesses here in Minnesota to create jobs, but I don't think we can rely on those. So I'm aware that monetary policy has a very important, we talk about fiscal policy as far as tax policy, but monetary, it needs to be reserved basically to stop deflation, or if the inflation starts to come down, to maintain stability. What we need to do, working on the ground, I think, is to close the gap between the hirings that are occurring and the much greater level of jobs that are being created. Businesses are creating jobs they can't fill. So what I was saying to Teresa the other day is we've got to focus on closing that gap, and we can start to drive job growth and economic growth here at the ground level. I think each one of you know that you have some things you could hire people for, but you always think, can I afford it? Will I have time? Is this the time to do it? Now, just-in-time hiring is obviously very important. It goes to this question: can I, as a business owner, I'm presented with a business opportunity, and I want to develop my organization, and I want to produce goods or services that I believe are needed in the marketplace and are going to be profitable and make my business successful, my company successful. Now, can I do this, or do I have to spend a lot of money for every person that I want to try to hire, and do I want to have to take a lot of time? So these are the two big barriers which I think that just-in-time hiring can address. Now, what are the things that take a lot of money? Well, first of all, as you'll see that Teresa Collett mentions in this debate, is that the first two employees that many businesses, especially small businesses, have to hire are lawyers and accountants. They can't even get off the ground without lawyers and accountants. Now, when they need to make a hire, they also need to have lawyers and accountants watching every move, because there are many fixed costs which are built into every new hire. And we're not even talking about the benefits programs, which are creating a lot of problems, especially with rising health care, which is another key issue which will be debated in this show. So let me just say that just-in-time hiring tries to reduce the regulations and the costs that allow an employer, when they need to hire somebody right now for something they need right now, will allow them to go out into the marketplace, contact that person, that man or woman, that white person or that minority person, to try to create a world-class workforce, which we're definitely going to need. And who are the people that have the skills and the job preparedness to get going right now and hit the ground running and add to the company's production and add to its ability to get out in the marketplace and to sell those goods and services?